All right, guys, how's it going? Today I'm with Alan Bleiweiss, who's a SEO. I think you've been doing SEO for quite a while, right, Alan? About, what'd you say, 17 years?
Yeah, this month, 17 years.
Wow, so it's your anniversary, your SEO anniversary.
Yep.
Right on. So Alan is going to show us some expert tips for SEO audits. And Alan, you actually, that's what you mainly do, right? You do huge audits for big companies and whatnot, right?
Yeah, so I did the work of SEO for many years, and at one point realized that I needed to do an audit before I started just doing work, right? Because it was a challenging client, and they were in a really deeply competitive market, and I understood right away I can't just assume that whatever I'm going to do is going to be enough. So I need to be able to figure it out, and that was the start. My first audit was 2007, I guess. But eventually, I got so many requests just for audits that that's what I did. I shifted to full-time in audits. And the last 4.5 years, I've been able to build my business to the point where I don't need to work full-time anymore. I get my clients are big enough. The revenue is high enough for me in my comfort zone that I decided it was time to go to semi-retired, so that's what I am. But yeah, primarily on-site audits.
Right on. Cool. So yeah, I mean, if you're ready, if you just want to jump into it. So basically how I usually do these is we just do like a screen share. I think if you just click on the top left, you can share your screen with that green button. And yeah, if you just want to show us the ropes, I know a bunch of people are definitely interested in this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got my screen in front of you here?
Yep.
All right. I can see you. As long as you can see my screen, we're good.
Yep.
Right?
We're good.
And I got analytics open. I just want to make sure you see my analytics in front of you.
Looks good.
All right, good. So the core concept of a site audit is going to apply regardless of how big the site is or how many visitors they get. But it's going to vary in some ways as well, right? A 50-page website might not necessarily have the same kind of challenges that a 5 million page website would have. Yeah.
Right.
So I developed a process over the years that works for me. The truth is, everybody might have a different, each person that would be doing an audit, whether it's a one-time audit because you do the SEO yourself. Sorry, I was just hitting my mic here. Whether you're just doing an audit for your own site that you manage, or you work as an SEO and you have several sites you're responsible for, whatever it is, you're going to have your own process that you can go through, right? And it may be similar to mine. It might be the same thing as mine. It might be very different. It's whatever gets the results that you need. That's what matters most, right?
Right.
I have a standard process that I do. The first thing that I do when I get a prospective client site is I have an intake form that I ask them questions on. What's the domain that you want to have audited? Are there other sites that are connected to it or that you have online with similar information? What are your primary goals? What are the top markets that you focus on? Just a whole series of questions like that. And one of the most important questions is, what do you hope to achieve with this audit, right? Because some people get it in their heads that I only care about this one part of my website, and they think that's all that you should be focusing on is that one part of the website. That's proper for tactical audits, right? When you're just working on one part of the website, or you're just working on one aspect of SEO like keyword refinement. That's tactical work. But at a strategic level, what I do is I need to be able to look at the whole picture at the highest level, because what you think may be causing one portion of your site to be successful and another one not, may not be a complete understanding if you don't look at all of the signals for SEO, right? One section of a website isn't an island unto itself. It's supported by and interacts with other portions of the website, just like off-site signals impact it as well. But I want to get their understanding of what they think they hope to achieve with the audit. Sometimes I need to clarify to them those types of considerations, but also where they have specific concerns that even when I'm doing a broader strategic audit, I can still address some of those more refined questions they have. The very next thing that I do is I go into Google Analytics, and I can't show you my client data because of non-disclosure agreements, but I just want to show you from my own site some core things that I do, right? I want to get a general pulse of what's going on with the website, and it's based on what SEO means in 2017, so it's different than 3 years ago when mobile wasn't as important. But the first thing I want to do is I want to look at the comparison of desktop to mobile to tablet. I want to see how many visitors come to the site on mobile. If it's almost no visitors, I need to know why, right? Do they have a separate mobile site they didn't tell me about? Or is there another reason they're not showing up in mobile? It could be because of mobile quality signals. There's all these different things to wonder about. But you begin looking at your data signals. You know, how much time they spend on the pages on the site across different platform times and device types. You know, how many pages they view, if they have conversions, what the conversion rate is, right? Because this is all going to be helpful in determining where there's weaknesses and where there's opportunities. Now, forgive me, with my own site, I don't do a whole lot of anything with it. I haven't touched my site technically in probably 2 years.
That's the problem with doing so much SEO is you end up neglecting your own SEO.
Right. I'm busy working on a 15 million page website, and I do 60 or 80 audits a year, right? So I really don't have time to bother. And the truth is, even though I only had 30 contacts in the last 30 days, half of them have turned into new clients. So and I'm operating at a record pace for revenue, so I don't need to get more revenue from my site right now. That might change, and I will need to address it at some point, but for now, I'm good, right? But looking at the core data, I just want to get a general pulse early on. And then I want to look at acquisition, right? And I can go in and I can just see overall trends, right? And I can go back over time to see the long-term trends right here in Google Analytics. And I just want to see, month to month, and mine's obviously not going to be a great visual to show year-over-year historic kind of stuff. I'm pretty steady for the last few years in what I get. But you can do comparisons year-over-year to start looking at, well, site-wide, what's going on, and break it down and look at just organic. And if you see a drop-off in organic from this view, you want to look at the direct traffic to see if there was a simultaneous drop-off with direct traffic, because it may not be SEO related. It may be industry related. It may be market conditions, right? And this is why looking at data is so important, because it starts pointing out things that I need to consider, and then I need to pause and say, what else am I not thinking about that might be impacting this data signal? Make sense?
Right.
Yeah. And I can break it down by source medium and look at all these different channels, and I can see, well, okay, the average time on site is 1:40 from Google Organic. In this case, it looks really good, but the reality is this last row here from Facebook, the average time on site is 15 seconds. I don't get a lot of value from Facebook, but I don't put any real time or effort into it. My Facebook presence is actually private. It's not public, so it's a different ballgame for me, right? But if you have a publicly facing Facebook page for your business or the site you're auditing, while social media is not a direct, absolute connection to SEO, there are impact considerations for it. And so I want to look at what the data tells me just overall, just to get started, right? And then one of the things that I need to do is I want to get a general quick look at page timings to see what's going on. And I can see in the longer view timeline, there are some times over the last year where the average time on site was really bad, right?
Yeah.
And then if I just look at more recent days, what's been going on lately? All right, well, there's not enough activity on my site for Google to even bother tracking the page timings. And that's one reality we have to face, is that if you don't have enough activity for their system to be able to generate real averages, you're not going to get data to work with. Yeah. But on the days where they do track it, yeah, I could see, okay, 19 seconds there, 15 seconds. Some days it's a lot slower than others. And just looking at here, okay, I'm just going to look at the 2 pages that for this period of time there is data for, right? I can say for the home page, I'm going to click in. And I can see, well, it turns out that there was a spike here. And the good news is the spike was only 6.5 seconds. Yeah.
Right.
But I start taking notes and I start pulling some basic data into a spreadsheet. And then once I have a basic foundation of data across a few different tools that I need to get started with, I then send that to my assistant, and then she goes and she pulls more data and does more testing based on the criteria I set for that audit.
Wow.
Right. And what this does is, and this is not my site, but this is an example client site, right? And okay, so we got the Google 30-day average is only 5.4 seconds. That's great. But maybe they have intermittent problems. And like I said, if you go to the individual page, you're going to potentially see on some days there's going to be slower speeds, right?
Now, wouldn't you want under a 5.4 second load time? Wouldn't you want like a 2 or a 3?
Well, Google's ideal is 1 to 3 seconds. But the truth is, if you're in a competitive landscape where you and the other top 10 competitors all have really slow pages, it's not as critical to get it down to 1 second. Yet,
Okay.
if you make your site faster than all of your competitors, that's going to help for usability first and foremost, but it's also going to have some impact on SEO if your speeds are really slow, right? And so while I shoot for an ideal goal, progress is always better than nothing. And we want progress in as many signal points across the full range of SEO as we can get, because that will all cumulatively help our goal achievement needs, right? So I pull the core data, and then she does separate tests, and I'll go into some of that here during our session today, and puts it in a spreadsheet that I can visually, effortlessly look at it and see patterns that I care about. And this is really important on a larger site especially, right? If I have a site that has 100,000 pages or 5 million pages or 50 million pages, I can't take the time in a strategic audit to look at every single page and every data point for every page. It's just not reality. So I need to look at a sampling so I can get a pattern understanding, to look for patterns of good things and weakness patterns or artificial patterns, right? And that's where I can start to see, oh, well, you know what? There's potentially some serious problems. And in this case, you know how I showed you, you go into an individual page in Google Analytics, right? If you clicked on that individual page in the page timings report, you see that one page. And now all of a sudden I can see where certain pages are slow on some days during the course of the last 30-day month, right?
Right.
Well, if every page I looked at all had a really slow speed on one day, and it was the same day for the whole site, and it was only one day, maybe there was a server problem that day. I don't need to be as worried about it, but I want to mention it because then it's the developer or site administrator's responsibility to go figure out what happened that one day if they can, right? Because that could lead to potential weaknesses and vulnerabilities that they weren't aware of. So I want to let them know about it. But if I look at enough pages and enough days, I can see, well, look, oh, this wasn't just a one-day problem for one page or all pages on just one day. This page shows several different days over the last 30 days where there were serious problems. 50 seconds for one page, that's insane.
Wow.
But in Google Analytics, I can go even further. I can show the 30-day for that page by device type, and I can see where there's problems for different devices on different days, right? And if you do enough data sampling, you may find that when you drill down to the device type specifics, you may only have a problem for mobile devices. That's a really important thing to know. Right?
So I have a question. What's the common problem that you usually see? Is it server problems with hosting, or problems with maybe this pages being too large, or filled with images that are going to be bogging down the page? What do you see commonly?
Well, in the work that I do, I typically see 8 to 10 different common causes. And this is why we can't just rely on looking at one data point. So we go into Google PageSpeed Insights tool, and we run, I'm sorry, I'm getting an echo on your computer.
Sorry.
Yeah. I run Google PageSpeed Insights because that kind of gives me more knowledge, right? And Google PageSpeed Insights is great, but it's not complete. You need other tools to show you more information, but it's part of the puzzle. And Google PageSpeed Insights tool will list several things that you can do to image, for images and style sheets and server issues that might be going on, right? I look at the mobile friendly test. I want to see what that tells me. I want to look to see if there's a whole lot of errors at the code level, because even though you don't need 100% validation at the code level for SEO, the more errors you have, the more likely there's going to be page processing problems or algorithmic confusion, right? This chart's really good right here. This chart comes from Google Search Console, and it's the time downloading a page. Google Search Console crawls your site on a regular basis, and if their system is delayed in the amount of time it takes just to download the code, if that's slower than 2 seconds on average, they're going to abandon the crawl, and that's not helpful for SEO, right? But if it's a slow time in this one data point just to get the code, then anything else that code forces you to do to create a visual page is going to be delayed. So it's another data point to look at. But then I go to webpagetest.org, and I love this tool. Webpagetest.org is one of many different speed testing tools. There are several tools that are out there that work really well. Most of the ones that I've used, like Pingdom and YSlow, are helpful, but where they don't offer the diversity of testing environments that a tool like WebPageTest does. With WebPageTest, I can choose the different city or location around the world where I want to test from, and I can choose to emulate different browser types, and the one I focus on most is Chrome, because Chrome is the browser that, Google's own browser, right? And I could test connection speeds. And this is critical because when you look at your actual client data and you go to the devices that they use, right? And the different types of devices that they use, and the different locations that they're coming from around the world or around the country, right? Oh my God, the majority of my visits in over the past 2 years has been from Russia. That's crazy. Well, that's because I did some marketing work with an interview at a conference in Russia, so I happen to have a lot of visits from Russia. But because of the fact that people come from all different places and they have different connection types, a tool like WebPageTest is really helpful. I can test different scenarios. That's real world user testing rather than just me looking at the site and saying, well, my connection, it's really fast, so who cares? That's myopic. I need to understand the diversity of visitor types. And WebPageTest lets me do that.
So, Alan, would this be something that you would probably look at on a less well-known site, or maybe a smaller site, or is this something you're doing because, like, for this huge amount of traffic on these different sites that are, probably getting thousands and thousands of visits a day, just by improving page speed, people are going to be getting, or those companies are probably going to be getting tons more conversions because people are going to be, hitting the pages, not bouncing off. Their rankings are going to go up. But I assume that there's probably some other things that you look at besides just, page speed, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I look at a lot of things, right? But just generally speaking, for page speed, web page test is really good because it breaks things down granularly, right? And you can go to the details report, and the details report shows you every element on a particular page you're testing and the speed it took for each point in that communication process for that one element. And this starts giving you the ability to find problem weakness points in individual page templates. And this is where you can start figuring out where the speed delays are coming from and a way to resolve them. So that's why web page test is really helpful, right? So that's page speed generally. I go a lot further with page speed, but that's a broad understanding of page speed. I look at a lot of things with my audits, right? I want to understand the competition, but at a strategic level. I'm not doing tactical work, right? I'm doing strategic. I just want to get a feel for how big is the competitive base out there and how difficult is it to compete purely from a volume perspective as one consideration, right? And if it turns out that most of my competitors have 2, 3, 5, 10 times as much content or as much links, then that means the content I have and the links that I get need to have that much higher quality than I might otherwise care about if all things were equal, right? Because if I can't win effortlessly on volume, I need to win some ways, as many as possible, in quality of those signals. Does it make sense?
Right.
Yeah, right. And I look at other things. I'm not going to show you. This is just a sample, so I don't have data in these fields, but I look at structured data. I have different tabs in my spreadsheet, right? Structured data, rankings. I look at the top category ranks, the top information ranks, the top product ranks, depending on whatever the purpose of the site is, right? I look at URL parameters because there can be duplicate content conflicts with those. You know, I look at all these different signal points. I look for crawl errors, and this is where different tools come into play, right? And in fact, you see this list of shortcuts in my browser?
Wow.
These are all the tools I use for testing in audits. Now, I don't use every one of these tools every time I do an audit, but I use some of them all the time. And it's for testing everything you could potentially think of when it comes to SEO. And that's another challenge, is which tools work best to give you the right information the way you can understand it, which tools offer you a different perspective, right? So like Google Analytics, I can look at page speeds overall, but with web page test, I can get granular for individual page template issues, right? Different tools for page speed, yeah? But
Right.
I can test structured data. I can check it to see if they have a disavow file already. You know, I can run Marie Haynes' disavow blacklist tool on inbound links to get an initial look to see if there's already obvious inbound links that need to be disavowed. You know,
Now, is that much of a
Good.
thing these days, Alan, with the new Penguin 4.0 update?
Yeah, absolutely, and here's why. And Google reps have even come out and reaffirmed this in the last couple of weeks, to be sure. While Penguin is real time, there's flaws in that concept. One, real time is not every day of the week, all day, every day on your site or on all of the sites that link to it. So there's a cycle day that goes through, and it has to catch up. And if you've already got a disavow file in place, any new links, any link evaluation that system's going to do is going to evaluate based on your disavow file. It's going to be a factor. And they still have manual reviewers, and they still issue manual link penalties for those sites that are really egregious. So if you want to avoid that insanity, disavowing on a regular basis is just the right thing to do even now.
Okay, so it seems like the Penguin 4.0 update, when they were kind of saying, oh, don't worry about it as much anymore, they were probably talking more about the general population of sites, which are kind of smaller, not as, prone to huge black hat or what would that be, negative SEO techniques, right?
Yeah, they've got such a large volume of data and known domains that are known spam domains now and where they have a much better understanding, though it's still far from perfect, as to what some of these negative signals really mean, and where those don't necessarily mean this site was intentionally trying to manipulate stuff, right? But for those people who hire somebody to do SEO that got bad links, it's not worth the risk to just let it alone. It's absolutely worth the time, once in a while at the very least, to clean up those links through a disavow process.
Right.
But Google Search Console is another critical tool that I use to get understanding of what the signals are, what's going on. I can look at structured data and see if there's errors there. This is part of the audit work that I do. I look for HTML improvements right here in Google Search Console, right? If I'm missing page titles, it's going to tell me. I don't need a third-party tool to do a lot of the work that I do because Google already provides it for free, right? Accelerated mobile pages data. There's search analytics that you can see what's going on with your site, and you can see where you're doing really well and where there's weakness opportunities, right? There's crawl consideration, crawl errors is really, it's all right here for you when they get their own crawl report, right? You don't need to have a third-party tool to tell you what Google's already found, although it can add to it. If you want to get more depth beyond all of these different reports, you can go to Screaming Frog is a great tool that I use. Screaming Frog is something I run on every site that I do. And for smaller sites, it's potentially all you need to do a sample crawl. And with Screaming Frog, you get all sorts of data that's going to be helpful for an audit that points to patterns of negative signals. And that's what you want to look for when you're doing a strategic audit. You're looking for those patterns. So Screaming Frog is great for that. And there's all these different reports that you can get. But if you need to crawl a larger site, that's where I go to DeepCrawl, right? So if I've got to crawl 200,000 pages or 5 million pages, I want to use a tool like DeepCrawl because Screaming Frog is going to break down or bottleneck my own computer that I'm running it on, yeah? Screaming Frog is good for 10, 15,000 URLs, but after that it gets a little wonky.
Yeah, I actually just got a free trial for DeepCrawl. I got one of the people that works there to contribute to a post, and they said, hey, we want you to do a review on this. I actually haven't done anything with it. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on it.
Yeah, so just a disclaimer, I'm on the customer advisory board. They had asked me to join last fall, but I've been a customer of DeepCrawl's for 2 years now. And what I find is it lets me crawl a much larger scale volume. And caveat to that too, if I'm auditing a 5 million page site for the strategic audit, I don't always need to look at 5 million pages, like I said before, right? But I still want to crawl 200,000 URLs so I can get enough of a pattern identification. DeepCrawl is great for that. And this is the dashboard, and it's going to point out the issues that that system finds right away.
And the reason for that, Alan, isn't because you don't think there's necessarily problems with all those pages. It's more because once you start seeing a certain pattern, you can pretty much assume that the other ones are going to be following similar standards, right?
Right. And because this is a strategic one-time audit, then I can use the understanding that, hey, look, I found this pattern with this kind of page. Somebody after this audit is done is going to need to crawl the entire site or the entire section of the site where these issues were found to identify all of those. Or you can look at enough URLs to identify what kind of URL it is, because on a large site especially, those are based on only a handful of templates, and maybe you only need to fix one template or one script on the site, and that can fix 50,000 pages, right?
I do want to add in here, Alan, we do have about 16 viewers right now, and I have never seen them this silent. I think they are extremely interested in what you're saying. I do want to let them know, though, that if you guys have any questions for Alan, make sure you ask now because he's on here. So we're definitely open for questions. I think one question we actually did get, Alan, was any suggestions for particularly improving WordPress site speed, but I think that kind of just goes back into what we were talking about before, making sure that you're using the correct tools like PageSpeed Insight and whatever other tools you were showing us.
Yeah, absolutely. Google PageSpeed Insights is really important. And web page test is going to give you, you can look at a sampling of pages, look at your home page, look at a blog post, right? And you're going to be able to see, oh, look, here's all of the things that are really slow. And oh, look, image size, 172 kilobytes. Well, an image size may be 172 kilobytes in file size for different reasons. You could use file compression to squeeze it down, but maybe it's dimensionally too many pixels wide for your real need, and you could shrink it down dimensionally and compress it. So there's two ways to reduce the file size, right? But web page test gives you this insight. Great for WordPress, right? So DeepCrawl, you get all these different reports. And what's another thing with DeepCrawl is you can run a report one time and then you can come back and run it again 30 or 60 days later after work was done to see where there's still weaknesses or where there was improvements to those issues. And that's where you have the columns here for changed, added, removed, to show you over time where there was improvement and gain. You can monitor the work, right? DeepCrawl is really powerful, just like Screaming Frog does all different kinds of reports that you have, you know, and you could just drill down further and further and further. So I use DeepCrawl a lot as another one of my tools. And that's just generally it. The critical concept here, though, is I need to know what are the goals of this audit? Is it strategic or tactical? If it's tactical, I need to use a tool like Moz's Keyword Explorer because I need to refine my keywords. If it's strategic, I can run a crawl with Screaming Frog, and I can see all of my page titles in front of me or a sampling of them, and understanding keyword relevance and what that means, I can start to see patterns of problems with keywords. Like, for example, if the keywords are too broad, right? I can see that right in front of me in my spreadsheet from my Screaming Frog crawl, right? So then I would need, at a tactical level, I would need to go into a tool like Moz's Keyword Explorer and start going deeper, specific to keywords. Is it tactical or strategic? What is the work I'm doing? Which tool is going to give me the data or the understanding I need for this particular goal?
On that point, Alan, I know one of the main questions I usually get, and I'm sure the people watching right now are dying to know, but what are some of the main tools you find yourself using the most?
Web page test, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, Google PageSpeed Insights, Google Structured Data Testing Tool, Google Search Console Fetch and Render, Marie Haynes Disavow Tool, Google Mobile Test, Google AMP Validator, Google Search Console AMP Test, Bing Mobile Test, the W3C Mobile OK Checker, DeepCrawl, Google AdWords Keyword Planner, Moz Keyword Explorer. I do forensic work, so I want to see what's going on with the site. I look at what was the site built, what was the technology, right? What's the framework that's used? So I have built with technology tools that I use. Server header checkers to look for problems in the headers that you don't see just viewing at source, right? SSL service test, redirect checker to see if there's, you know, just quick tests that I do sometimes to get a little bit more insight for specific pages, right? I use SERPstat and SEMrush are my two primary competitive comparison tools for keywords and for granular information, again, at the tactical level, right? Moz Local, I want to use that just to get a pulse of what the signals are for offsite, for local. You know, Open Site Explorer is available that I use it sometimes. Big Webmaster Tools gives me more data. Majestic, Kerbu for link evaluations. The Penguin tool to see if I can align a known Google update with an individual organic visibility drop, right? There's just so many tools. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on, and I go on and on and on all day with the different tools that I use. But what's really good is on my own website, a while back I created a blog post. Forensic SEO, my top 40 favorite SEO Audit Tools and Resource List.
And I'll make sure to link to that in the description, guys, so you guys can go and check that out.
Yeah, and I've added, like, since this came out in 2015, I've added a couple of tools. I'm trying out tools from time to time. I don't have a lot of time to try another tool out because I'm happy with what I have. But once in a while, I'll add a new one, right?
And that's the problem too, Alan, is doesn't it seem like there's more and more tools coming out as we just progress with how popular SEO is becoming?
Yeah, all the time, right? And that's just the nature of the industry we're working. The beautiful thing is there are tools for everybody's needs, right? One of the tools that I like a lot is SERPstat. I might have mentioned that earlier. I just got introduced to it from Casey Markey. He's a great industry connection, and he introduced me to SERPstat. So in addition to SEMrush, SERPstat is really good as well, right?
Can you explain what that does?
Well, SERPstat is, I'm gonna write a bookmark it, right? I got it in my bookmarks. Sorry. Whoa. Where did I put it? I just dropped it in here the other day.
Oh, I just saw it. It's right. Go back up. It's right in that. Right.
I don't know.
Oh, you just passed it. Down, 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 down. Right there.
Yeah, SERPstat. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, this just, I get blinded by all the options and choices I have, right? Right. But I can go to SERPstat. I can go to, wait, what tool do I want? Oh, let's go to, right? SERPstat just gives me insight into keywords and competitive data, and it breaks it down in great ways. So it's yet another tool.
We have a question for you on e-commerce SEO.
Yeah.
One of our viewers would like to know what are some tips and tricks that he can give us besides the usual SEO stuff. I'm going to go to a site. This is not in English, so don't worry about that because I'm going to show you something here, right? Yeah. Okay. With e-commerce sites, you have a challenge that comes up with going down. I just clicked on one main sidebar navigation, and it gave me a whole bunch of new options in the sidebar within that one main category, right? And then I clicked on that one subcategory, and then I get all these other choices on the sidebar here to refine my product results that I'm looking for based on a particular type of product. And this is called faceted navigation. And if you allow too much faceted navigation to become indexable, you end up with too much duplicate content. And that's a critical problem because it's the same products over and over again served up 5 different sorted ways, right? And then you could say, show me all of these products in the $5 to $50 range, or show me all of the red version or all of the blue version that are over $50, you know, and you could show me newest first. And if every one of those variations of how you sort and filter the products are indexable, it causes massive duplicate content. So would it be better to no index those or just point canonicals from those different products to like the main product pages?
Well, it depends on the scale and the volume of the weakness, and that requires a proper audit to see how bad it is. Maybe you don't need to do anything at all because it turns out on your site it really isn't the problem. But on a larger site, it's more likely to be a problem. And if you know you have 30,000 products, but you have 15 million pages indexed in Google, that's a good indication that you probably have really serious filter problems and sorting problems.
Can you talk about like the consequences of that happening? Like how would that affect? Yeah.
Well, what ends up happening is if I have 2 different pages that are essentially the same content, Google and Bing are going to have to algorithmically decide which of these 2 is the authoritative version and which one to rank higher for all the different keyword variations that matter. And in certain cases, whether they even index the other version, right? And while that's a challenge with two pages that are identical or nearly identical, it becomes even more of a problem when you have thousands or tens or hundreds of thousands of those pages, where when you look at it, it's really the same products, but they're just sorted 15 ways. So what ends up happening is you're forcing Google to have to make decisions about what should and shouldn't be indexed, and their system is imperfect. So you can end up having a page that isn't your ideal version indexed or higher ranked than the version that you do prefer. And basically, not always, but most of the time, the standard rule is you want the original default version of a category page to be the one that gets all of the ranking signals and all of the ranking trust and strength. And if you got 15 versions of that URL competing, then you're not guaranteed to get the proper version indexed or high enough in the index. So by eliminating those through a no index method, you end up leaving the ones you care about the most to be the only ones Google can decide are the ones that deserve to be indexed and get the ranking value. Make sense? You there? Hey.
Yeah, sorry, my mic was muted because I didn't want to have the echo. But what I actually said when it was muted, apparently, is I said it probably looks less spammy to Google as well, that you don't have 15 subject or 15 products with the exact same thing that they're trying to rank for.
Yeah, absolutely right. So the key though is it's less of a concern about spam when it's just duplicated orations. But that potentially could be a weakness as well, right? And so when I come here and I go with Staples, shop by category, great. And I'm going to go to, okay. Right now, their site changes all the time, right? So I want to look for like printers, right? And then you get all these choices, right? And let's go to HP printers, right? Same concept, right? But then I get all these choices on the left. Well, what do I allow to be sorted for the user, and which ones of these deserve to be indexed? So sometimes decisions need to be made, because if you know that enough people search for a particular filter or sorting type, right? If like somebody goes to Google and says highest rated inkjet printers, if you have a sort feature for rating of printers, and you want to optimize this particular variation with the keywords that Staples not doing that, right? So Staple didn't change the page title and didn't add text here to talk about the highest rated printers, but you could potentially do that, where you could say, you know what, for this filter, I do want it indexable, so I'm not going to get rid of it with a no index, but I need to make sure that I add enough unique signals to justify that as well.
Yeah, I wonder if the schema markup for those ratings would weigh into that as well.
Yes, and that's another consideration too, right? Is you know, what are you doing at the code level, right?
That's crazy. I mean, those are things that I don't even, you know, to me, it just sounds like a huge headache. Like I don't even know how you would have to weigh those options with so many different choices.
Yeah, so this is where a strategic audit looks for these different scenarios and provides, not only does, when I'm doing an audit, I don't just look for problems and say, hey, this is a problem. I offer step-by-step recommendations for how to resolve it. So when it comes to this one example, I communicate to my clients, well, there's a few things you need to go through. One, for the particular filter or sort method that you are considering, is there enough organic search volume to even justify it? Because that's a factor. If nobody's searching for that combination of sort, you know, inkjet printers over $50 with a blue top, right? Who's searching for that? Nobody, right? So that's the first criteria. And then from there,
that might be good if it was like, you know, a website with only 3 printers on it and they're trying to go for long tail, but not for these, you know, massive websites like Staples.
no, that's why you got to go further. Because the next criteria is, can I look at my own sales data over historic timeframes, not just from organic visitors, but from all sales, to see, out of all of these things, where's my real revenue coming from, regardless of whether it's SEO or not? And then from there, I can refine it even further and say, well, just because I saw a lot of these, maybe I don't make any money on these because there's no profit in this product price point. Maybe I have other products that I sell less frequently, but I get a better profit from it because my cost of product is much lower. These are all considerations to start weeding out and deciding what to keep and what to not keep, what to filter out. It can become overwhelming. So another consideration on a large site is to do it in steps. First thing I recommend, if I'm doing a site audit like on a Staples, now Staples is not one of my customers, one of my clients, but I've worked on sites as big as and bigger than Staples, right? Well, let's take this in phases. You've got 40 things that I've recommended in my audit. You've got speed issues. You've got broken links internal to your site, right? Because I went into DeepCrawl and I saw you had 2,404 errors in links in your own site, right? Or I saw that you had 4,010 pages that need to be addressed, right? There's all these different things that they're going to need to work on. One of them is the issue related to the e-commerce sorting and navigation. So in this case, I would say, you know what? Let's get really bold. I want you to look at your own sales data. And I want you to identify the top 10, 15, or 20 category and subcategory combinations that you know are the most profitable. And then I want you to take all of the rest, and for now, I want you to de-index those. Because all those other combinations are causing you problems. Or maybe you keep the main categories and all the subcategories, but for now, you de-index all of the filters, all of the sort by price and all of the sort by newest and all of that, right? And then after we do all of this other work, you can come back and you can reintroduce and reintegrate some of those sorts and filters with caution and understanding of the need for uniqueness added, one at a time, and not cause yourself more problems. So those are different options that people can take.
I mean, you probably have to make some executive decisions here, though. Like, depending on where these people are at with their sites, you know, you could be potentially removing a lot of traffic, but in the long run, be helping them. What do you look for once you start de-indexing a bunch of stuff? Do you just start going, oh, well, the user metrics are up, but the search is way down? I mean, what do you look at?
Yeah, so you care about all of it, but the most important thing is what's your revenue, all right? I have, and I don't know if I can find it right away, but I'm gonna just jump real quick to see if I can find this here. An example of this. Bear with me. The concept is this. What I care about is I want to look at conversion data, because that's the most important, or revenue numbers. And if it turns out that my total number of site visitors is down, but my revenue is up, then I don't care about that visitor loss. If I have really low quality pages and a lot of them indexed, I'm going to get a lot of garbage traffic that doesn't even matter, because half of it's bots and the other half of it is just people that are hit and run. They come and they're gone 10 seconds later, or they're not as refined a customer base, right? And there's all these other considerations.
But how do you explain to these companies, like, hey, look, you know, you're losing all this traffic, but we're actually helping you?
Well, it's in the data. You got to be able to show the data. And it's not easy for me to find it right now, but the concept is I have examples where the actual number of users is down, but the revenue is up. And that's what I care about, is what is the actual data telling you is happening? That's what matters most. All right, here's a great example. Okay, so the new number of new users, the pages per session, I don't know if you can see this on my screen. It's kind of granular here.
Yeah, I can see it.
Right. So the pages per session was down 33%. That means people are spending a third less time on the site. That's insanity. I'm freaking out, right? I mean, or the pages per session is down and the average session is down, right? So those are down. That freaks me out. But I don't care because my revenue is up 17%. Who cares? Wow. If I can get somebody to my site who's more qualified as a potential customer, and if I can have them spend less time trying to find what they're looking for because I've cleaned up the navigation insanity or the organizational insanity, I'm going to have negative numbers in some cases because I'm reducing bottlenecks or resistance points to a conversion. As long as the numbers for transactions or revenue are up, then nothing else is, it's all new. It's all shiny objects that are not relevant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where data has to come into play to show that, yeah, this is what's really happening.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I know it can be complicated sometimes trying to explain this stuff to people, at least for me in the past, where it's like, look, your traffic's down, but so is your bounce rates, and you can see you're getting more conversions here. So I'm expecting that it's probably a little bit easier when you're dealing with larger clients because they look to you as more of an expert. But when you're dealing with maybe, lower level clients, they might have a little bit less trust in what you're doing.
Yeah, this is a reality. For me, I've been doing internet marketing for 22 years this month, 17 of them for SEO, right? I have a reputation that I built over an extended period of time. And I have the kind of clients that, you can go to my site and you can go to my site and see, right? And when you go to my site, yeah, I've got these big name logos, right? So these are really heavy duty clients. But you can go to my client list and you can just see an endless list of the kind of clients that I have worked with over the years, right? And all of a sudden now, with all of that, and with all of the reputation that I've worked to accumulate and build upon with my speaking and getting followers on Twitter, and getting really high quality feedback from others in the industry who are also highly respected, that goes a long way. But it goes even further for me because it's a matter of time and energy that comes into play. The more successes that I have, the more existing clients that I have that become referrals for me. And if I have a client who was really happy with my work, and then another prospective client comes to me because they were referred by that person, that's an advocate for me. I don't have to do as much work to show them they need to trust me.
Yeah, that's social proof, or not social proof, but just proof that you've worked with tons of people goes a long way.
Yeah. And this is where testimonials come in, right? This is legitimate testimonial. Now it helps that this is petco.com, right? Petco is pretty big with 1,000 stores across the United States or whatever the number is, right? But this is a testimonial from them. And adding testimonials don't have to be, if you don't have big name clients like I have, go with what you do have because it all matters. I didn't always work with international clients, right?
Right. I think that's kind of one of the, I really like what you're saying right here, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are kind of getting into SEO, and I experience, a lot of questions around how can I sell my stuff? What do I do? And I say, do what you can with what you have. Like, if you say, for instance, say you're ranking in your town for your keyword, and you're trying to get more local clients, say that. I mean, that's going to go a long way. But I think so many people, they don't really believe in the things that they've done because SEO can seem like this, mystic dragon, that it's hard for them to list their successes without feeling a little bit of doubt.
Yeah, we've all been there. Every one of us, no matter how successful I've gotten, and believe me, I'm not the most successful person in our industry. However, I've gotten some success. I'm pretty grateful for that. I started out at the bottom. I did. And I started out on 10-page websites. That's my reality. You know, and now I work on 100 million page websites, but I've been doing it for a lot of years. You know, another technique that you can do is this: work with local organizations, and they don't have to be nonprofits, but I like, over the years, you know, earlier on especially, I worked with nonprofits, and where I either did pro bono work, or, you know, like I worked with some fire departments early on, you know, or I offered my services at a discounted fee. And where when I got that work done and we succeeded, those became really valuable references and testimonial opportunities for going to other local, and then after that, other regional new client opportunities, because those were successes that I had that were familiar to those next level of clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And for some reason, it kind of made me think of this question for you. If you were to go back, or not even go back, but move forward right now, say you were just getting into, with what you know now, what would you still be doing the same thing, or would you maybe try to go in a different direction? I mean, of course, you're probably going to stay with the same thing, but say like these huge site audits,
Yeah.
I guess. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say like, would you recommend this for somebody else to get into right now? Like, just start learning how to do huge site audits, start doing like, or would you say like, oh no, maybe you should start doing like local SEO and start really diving into that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this right now, okay? And I'm biased, but I want to bring up a picture just to show you here, okay? This is the beach I live at, okay?
Well, hopefully you don't
And
live on the beach, right, Alan?
I don't live on the beach. I don't live at the beach, right? I mean, if we want to see the view from my front lawn, we just go here because I just posted a picture of it today, right? This is a view from my front lawn. Now, I'm not saying this to brag. Please understand, this is not bragging. This is to show a point. I have reached a certain level of success in life that I have the blessing to be able to live at the beach. All right. So would I go back and change anything? Oh my God, no. What, are you kidding me? Are you crazy? But somebody starting out now, here's the reality. It's absolutely possible at this point in our industry's history to become extremely successful, and even more successful than I am. Like, I'm just a one-person company, and I have a part-time 1099 contractor assistant, right? But that's because that's what I chose. I could have been running a 250 or 500 person company, and I have at different points in my 22 years in internet marketing run companies, agencies, right? But I chose this particular path at this point in my life because that's my internal desire. But this industry is still on a trajectory upward. It's not going downward. We're not moving in a direction of less people needing internet marketing. We need, to this day, they need more. When it comes to SEO, every couple of months, somebody comes out with an SEO is dead, or SEO is easy, or you don't have to worry about it, which is all bullshit. It's all garbage.
2 steps to making $100,000 a month with SEO.
Right. Yeah. The truth is, SEO is going to continually shift the way it's always shifted. Right now, it's mobile. Now it's artificial intelligence. Now it's all these other things, but it's still SEO. And if you have the willingness, the time, and the passion to learn what makes it work, and if you have the kind of personality that can be adapted to offering these services in a way that your clients get value from it, then it can be a major opportunity to build a life moving forward. I absolutely believe that still to this day, even if you're just starting out. The challenge, though, is all of those need to be reality. Are you good at understanding analytics? Okay, maybe you can be trained if you're not, right? Are you good at understanding marketing concepts? Because keyword evaluations are not just about technical, they're about understanding human understanding and human thinking and the human buying life cycle or the human desire for emotional satisfaction, because it's all emotion. SEO is all about human emotion. Your mind needs to be able to understand those things, or you need to collaborate with others who do understand some of it where you don't have to know all of it, right? But you need to be able to do that. You need to be able to have a passion for it. Otherwise, you're not going to enjoy the work. And if you don't enjoy the work, you're not going to be as successful consistently, because the quality of your work over time is just not going to be there. Now, some agencies in our industry, unfortunately, aren't passionate based. They're money based only. And as a result, they can still succeed, but because they go through a lot of clients and they're constantly replacing clients and they don't care and they keep moving on because they keep bringing in revenue. Now, if you want to do that, that's up to you. It's not my style. I believe if you want to reach the kind of successes that I know is possible personally, even if it wasn't purely financial based, because I was hugely successful long before I was bringing in $230,000 is what I brought in last year, right? Long before I reached that. When I was generating $75,000 a year doing this work, I was insanely happy, because just a few years before that, I was only making $30,000 a year. And in a few years, I doubled that revenue, right? And if you don't need more than $75,000 a year because you're really happy with your life overall, then that's right there, that's it. Who cares? You know, some people make $1 million a year. I don't want to be those people. I just happen to not need it. You know, so it's also about personal choice and internal understanding of your own nature as a human being.
Wow, those are some amazing insights. I mean, honestly, I'm not at that point right now, but I can see what you're saying with a lot of the things you're saying. And, you know, for me personally, I can just see like all the opportunity that's out there like currently. And I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, you know, this is the point in time for me, in my opinion, like to really start to get into this stuff, because it seems like it's just becoming more and more popular, and the opportunity out there is just so huge. I mean, that's pretty much what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I am. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? And also, where do you want to start? If you don't have enough experience to be able to play in the big leagues, that's okay. You don't have to start out playing in the big leagues, and you don't want to if you aren't truly at the skill level to know what to think about on the scale that I work in, right? Because what ends up happening is if you make a mistake with a big site audit, your reputation is destroyed. It's not necessarily destroyed, but it's really severely harmed. And you could run into all sorts of legal problems, right? So go slow, breathe, start with smaller sites, get your chops, take the time like you're doing. One of the things I really appreciate about you, Chase, and we only just recently met, right? But you're so willing to not only offer the knowledge that you already have, you're deep into wanting to learn more, right?
Yeah.
And that's critical to this. I didn't get where I am by not having a willingness to learn. I have been willing to learn and continue to this day to learn all along, and building on what I've already known so that I have a bigger pool of knowledge. I have a bigger base of understanding. And it's not just book knowledge, it's real world application. And I tied myself into the internet marketing community and search marketing community online and at conferences and at meetups so that I can get more knowledge even beyond that. it's part of the process. If you have the willingness and the time and the energy, it's absolutely worth it. It's an amazing and rewarding career. You know, when I work with a client like the ACLU, right? Or even back in my days when I worked with local chambers of commerce, to help them get more visibility so that their nonprofit organization could thrive. Not only did it help their organization as an organizational entity, but the people who run that organization, right? And their families were better off, and the community around them, the business community and the individual people who rely on those entities, those organizations, get more access more directly and are benefited as well. And it's a ripple effect. And the same is true for helping us a professional site that's in a for-profit business. That's a business that an owner has, and maybe it's a mom and pop, but oh my God, if the work that I do can help that mom and pop business succeed, think of the level of stress that can be reduced in their lives, and their families' lives, and their customers or their clients. Absolutely worth it.
I think that's why there's so many people who are actually not just into doing SEO and helping businesses, but they're actually into helping people. And even one of our viewers, Video Base, just said SEO and life lessons in one video, best show yet. So, you know, I totally agree with you. And actually, one of the things that I'm going towards, Alan, is not just getting established as an SEO, but also start using that to start propel some sort of motivational speaking career where I could start encouraging others and helping them, you know, throughout their, you know, entire lives. So,
well, I applaud you. I applaud you for seeing that opportunity, for wanting to pursue that. Absolutely. You know, another thing that I get the benefit of doing now is, over the years, I've had a number of people who have mentored me in business and in life. I have been, for several years now, and then today, a mentor to a number of different people. And it's a very limited number of people, just because that's the nature of the fact that we have lives and we're trying to do 50,000 things. And for me, it's not all work. You know, I want to sit at the beach for a while, once in a while, several times a week. So I do that. But I get to mentor other people as well. And when I mentor people, sometimes it's business specific, sometimes it's SEO specific, sometimes it's just general running of a business. I've got a lot of years of running a business that have nothing specific to do with SEO, so I can be of help to others. I have a lot of life lessons that I've learned the hard way. I get to be of help to others if I want to be. And the more willing I am to be of service to others, regardless of the financial gain, the richer my life is overall. And it just so happens that, oh, well, guess what? It turns out that by being of service within my own industry, I get to make more money too. Hello?
right. All right. Well, Alan, I actually do have to wrap this up. Yeah. It's crazy. Today I have another interview with another big YouTuber who's doing SEO after this. So just back to back. One of the things I do want to do for the YouTube algorithm, so that we can reach more people, more people can hear this, you know, great advice, is that if all the people are viewing, which I think is 17 people left, if you guys can press that like button, it'll help us reach more people. And then also, if you want, give us, put a 1 in the comments if you enjoyed what Alan said today. And I really appreciate you coming on, Alan. You know, I was really looking forward to hearing from you. And hopefully there's no hard feelings from the debate we had in that SEO group the other day. Of course, we both are very passionate about this stuff. So, you know,
no, that was a great example of dialogue within our industry to talk about really important topics. And this is the way it goes. And this is how we all get elevated together.
Right. Cool. Well, also, Alan's in the group that we're in on our Facebook group, and he's been giving some advice to people and interacting. So if you guys want to head over to our Facebook group as well, make sure you go over to Facebook and check us out. It's called SEO Pros with Chase Reiner or something. Yeah, so hopefully maybe we'll get you on another episode too, Alan. You know, it was really good having you here. I know a lot of people really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to participate, Chase. I'm glad that we've connected, and I look forward to ongoing and additional dialogue. And Wow, this is fun.
Right on. All right, we're signing off, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.